What is up, everybody? Welcome to DFS by the Numbers, and welcome to the first Stat Diggers of 2025. We have UFC Vegas 101, a 14-fight card, and we are back after a 3-week break, and I'm here, as always, with Uncle Weezy. Uncle Weezy, what is up? Are you looking forward to finally having some UFC back? I am myself. I mean, NFL, these last couple of weeks, they've been getting me. I lost in the semifinals of my championship. Shout to George Pickens. George Pickens, you bum. George Pickens, you are a bum. This is a bum. Nico Collins had a rough night. The other night, it's been bad. So I'm done with NFL. Looking forward to getting back into the UFC. Weezy, how about you?
Yeah, I'm done with the NFL, man. I've been trying to get out of my fantasy leagues for like the last 2-3 years. It's just, and then this year was bad. I had 3 teams. One of them didn't make the playoffs at all and had more injuries than I've ever had on any team in all the years that I've ever played fantasy football. One of the teams had a bye, and then off the bye week, we were by far the best team and just did nothing. Lost in the semifinals, and the other team lost in the first round of the playoffs. So yeah, I'm happy to be done with football. And I was just looking at the playoff race. Can you believe that the Bears or the Browns are not in the playoffs? Did you see that, Brady?
I saw that and I was shocked.
Dude, I'm gonna have to check and see if my Matt Eberflus Coach of the Year bet cashes that I had. I felt like that was going to be a really good play, but I don't know. Maybe he still gets it. I felt like he was wrongly fired. I felt like they could have easily been 5-12. I mean, like instead of 4-13. So maybe we can bring back Eberflus. But yeah, I'm really glad that football is basically over. Fantasy football is over. My team, the Chicago Bears, gone. Your team, the Cleveland Browns, gone. We can get back to worrying about what's important, Brady, and that's the UFC and MMA in the year 2025. It's going to be the year of stat diggers. We're hitting these stat digger parlays just out of the park lately. We got to continue with that. Looking to have a big year on track bets this year because last year was not a great year, man. Do you know how many units I finished up last year, Brady?
I'm going to guess 6.
No, less.
Really?
Dude, I finished up 0.9 units for the year.
Dude, wait. What the heck? Is that real? Is that real? Oh my gosh. What? Wow. I've never seen anything that big. That's the big. I think that's one of the biggest things I've ever seen.
I've never seen a donation that big on YouTube ever.
Oh, I didn't know they let you do that.
I didn't know either. Oh my God. Avery Marino, our guy, sponsoring Stat Diggers for the entire year 2025. God bless this man.
The whole year is sponsored now. We're showing up the whole year now.
Oh my God. Yeah, well, I guess we have to now. I mean, I guess the announcement that Stat Diggers was going to be no more is now no more. We've got a sponsor, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh my gosh. Yep. We were just it's gonna be one and done, right? This was the last week, but no, I'm just kidding. But geez. He says, hoist the sails. 2025 is upon us. Stat Diggers Parlay will be an industry cornerstone, and our pockets will need insulin. They'll be so fat. I love it. Shout out to
Get him on the Ozempic. Let's go.
Let's go. Heck yeah. And we got the old gloves are back for this year, so that's nice.
Yes. Yeah, hopefully we can get some more finishes because that's something where you and I are comfortable betting unders, Brady. And when you get taken out of your comfort zone, it's something that it makes it difficult to find bets that you like. So it's going to be good to have the old gloves back. We're back for 2025. I know that my picks were really good last year. I was looking at the UFC predictions tracker. Number 1 on return on investment on my picks tracked, and number 2 on picks for the year in terms of percentage. So the process of choosing the bets from those picks is where things are going kind of wrong for me, but still on a nice little winning streak with my bets too. So I'm looking to make Stat Diggers one of the most watched shows of 2025, Brady, and our analysis is going to take these people that watch us to the next level in terms of getting their pockets way fatter. We will need insulin. We will need Ozempic. We're going to need elastic waistbands on our pants.
Let's go. Let's go. Shout out to Avery for that, and shout out to all of you guys. Good to see you all in here. Let's hit up the chat. We have Shot McGee. Feels like it's been 6 months. And yeah, actually for me though, I was telling Lee, like it felt kind of like the break flew by, at least for me.
Yeah. It flew by for me too, dude. It really flew by.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. It's like felt real short to me, but yeah, I've had some withdrawals too, especially with like the trash NFL stuff. Like I'm so sick of NFL. So glad it's over. So yeah, glad to have UFC back. We got Will Pancake in the building. We got the Carillo in the building. Good to see you. Good to see you, Glimbot. Good to see Kiwi in here. Good to see Mushroom. Good to see Big Steve as well in here to thank Wheezy for his Ryzen, KSW, and Octagon locks over the New Year's period. Wheezy, you did some extra stuff, huh?
Yeah, we smashed. We absolutely smashed once again. I just followed Big Steve though. You know, my locks are his locks. He knows what he's doing on that regional scene shit. I wish I had the time to watch and tape those fights, but trying to build a database all inclusive. You should see the data set I put together during the time off, Brady. Literally all the predictive analytics for every fight in 2024, all 550 fights ready to be analyzed, baby. I'm going to go nuts on that, full nerd, and get all that data for the UFC that I've compiled and start to find some trends. I'm looking forward to that.
So you didn't have time to research KSW and stuff. So.
Nah, man, I just did not.
Yeah.
I did not. I watched a ton of like old LFA and CFFC events. It was so weird. Like I wanted to take time off, but I still wanted to watch fights. But it was nice to just watch some fights that already happened that I didn't have to worry about who was going to win or who's, what bets I was going to place. I just got to watch some fights and it was fun. I enjoyed it.
For me, I was the opposite. I was like, I don't want to even think about a fight for the next couple of weeks. So I guess refresh my mind, refresh the brain. So I tried to stay off Twitter and all that. But I saw we got some interesting like fights booked and stuff. So 2025 should be a very fun year. This is actually a good card, some solid fighter. This is a good card. Good card. Next week's a good card. Got a pay-per-view next week as well. Got Forrest in here. Happy New Year from myself and my friend Ethan Hansen watching. Shout out to Forrest and shout out to Ethan Hansen. We got Justin Vallejos. Raiders. Oh, we got a Raiders.
Raiders. Yeah, boy.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, Bears, Browns, Raiders. We can all have a good cry together, all of us fans.
Oh, yeah, it's rough. It's rough. We got Avery saying we are so back. We are so back. UFC predictions by G Funk. Big up G. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Bro is the GOAT. I think he's talking about Avery. Avery is a legend. Avery is a GOAT. Shout out to Avery. Let's see. 5 big boom. Have you seen those big boom guys, the Costco guys? You probably haven't. You're not on TikTok.
I know who they are. I don't think I've ever watched any of their videos. I mean, like there's certain shit, Brady, that if I watch it, I feel like I'm just going to lose half my brain cells. And my brain is already coated in malted hops and bong resin. So I just cannot afford to lose anymore. And watching dumbass shit like that, the pop culture stuff, I just can't stand it, dude. It's just the worst to me. So yeah, I know what you're talking about though. I know where yeah.
It's bad. Avery says 5 big booms. Boom, 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 boom,
boom.
I saw a video with those Costco guy. I don't know if it was real or I think it was real, where somebody commented and said like his brother died, and he was like, "All right, 5 big booms for your brother," and then they gave him 5 big booms, and his brother died. I couldn't believe it. So, bring the boom, yeah. Shout out to the Costco guys. All right, I say we get into it, Weezy.
Let's do it, man. Let's do it.
A lot to talk about, and we're going to start with the first fight of the card. We did have a couple short notice replacements, which sucks because I know I taped one of the fights. I know Weezy taped this fight. Yeah. But we're going to have Joe Solecki stepping in on short notice here, taking on Nurullo Aliev. We'll start with Aliev, who is 24 years old, 5'10" with a 72-inch reach. Joe Solecki, 31 years old, 5'9" with a 70-inch reach. Aliev is going to be 7 years younger. He's going to have a 1-inch height advantage and a 2-inch reach advantage. Aliev is 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Had a knockout win, I believe, on the Contender Series, correct?
Or
or no?
Oh yeah, that was on the Contender Series against Wick, ground and pound. Yes.
And then he made his debut against Rafael Alves and won that fight by decision. As far as Joe Solecki, he is 2-3 in his last 5 fights. A decision loss to Jared Gordon, a decision win against Alex De Silva, a submission win against Carl Deaton III, a knockout loss to Jakar Close, and then a decision loss to Grant Dawson. So this is one I feel like is a pretty simple one to break down. Nurullo Aliev has some solid wrestling, some solid grappling. Joe Solecki, legit black belt in BJJ. But the problem with Solecki is this guy is just content to be on his back. He can be taken down. He'll throw up submissions, and I kind of feel like that might hurt him here. So how I'm kind of seeing the fight, I think Aliev's going to get some takedowns pretty easily. And then if Joe Solecki is just content to, lay on his back, lose minutes, I think that's kind of how the fight's going to play out. Fight probably goes 15 minutes. I think it's Aliev by decision. And we actually have odds for these new fights already, which is nice. And it looks like Aliev is a massive favorite, sitting around like minus 440, minus 500 on a book. So this is one that I probably won't be touching, but I kind of lean Aliev and Aliev by decision. Weezy, what are your thoughts on the first fight of 2025?
Man, we got Nurullo Aliev kicking it off. This guy has not fought for a year and 9 months, and he bit Rafael Alves. He bit him. So I think Alves might have been fish hooking him, like pushing on the mouth, and then I think one of his fingers got in Aliev's mouth. Aliev just chomped down on it. So yeah, this is a guy who's actually bit somebody, but he is a crotch sniffer, and a crotch sniffer of the highest order. He's going to go out there and take you down. He's going to stay in your guard. He's going to defend against your submissions, and he's going to land ground and pound. That's how he wins minutes. The Aliev striking is below average, in my opinion. He's got no submission game. He's never submitted anybody as a professional. He's going to take you down. He's going to stay in your guard, and he's going to land ground and pound. That's it. But he's very, very good at it. And Joe Solecki, over his UFC career, is defending takedowns at a 20% clip. 20% takedown defense. And it's not because Joe's not a good wrestler. It's because he's very comfortable off of his back. He's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. He wants to grapple. And you can even look, for instance, we've got 8 fights for Joe Solecki. He's averaging 50% control time for, 29.4% control time against. So only 20% of this guy's UFC cage time is taking place at distance striking range. And it was the same thing for Aliev in his UFC debut against Rafael Alves. That fight took place in control time positions for 81% of the fight. So, yeah, I mean, this is going to be a grappling match, and it's probably going to be Aliev on top, landing ground and pound, and Solecki from his back throwing up submissions, looking to finish the fight. So I see this fight playing out one of two ways: Aliev by decision or Solecki by submission. I think it's a pretty easy fight to break down, and I think both of those are actually pretty live. I'm not really sure how the market is getting to minus 450 for Nurullo Aliev. This is a guy who fights on very, very thin margins. I mean, if the crotch sniffing doesn't work, he has nothing else, Brady.
Yeah.
So that's it. But I was very interested in the Yanal Ashmo's side when he was Aliev's opponent, because Ashmo's actually has some power. Joe Solecki does not have power, man. The guy's got 18 professional fights, 13 professional wins. He's got 0 knockouts. This is not a guy who's going to go out there and clean your clock standing. He is a grappler, and he's either winning minutes with his grappling and not finding a submission and winning a decision, or he's finding the submission and winning the fight that way. So I think that if Solecki had some upside on the striking, that this line would probably be closer, but I kind of feel like it's Joe Solecki's submission or bust here, because I don't think he's going to out-wrestle and outpoint Nurullo Aliev in the grappling exchanges here unless he finds a submission. So, yeah, Aliev by points or Solecki by submission are probably by far the 2 most likely outcomes here.
Yeah, the only bettable outcome would probably be that Solecki by submission long shot, because it looks like the over is already minus 260. So they're kind of with us here, like Aliev by decision. So the decision prop's probably what, like minus 150 at best.
Yeah, it's going to be juiced, dude. It's going to have a negative number and it's going to have a negative sign in front of it. I'm sure of it because, Aliev has 9 pro wins and only 2 of them are by knockout. And one of them was on Dana White's Contender Series because of ground and pound. The other one was literally a corner stoppage. So it was between rounds where they were like, okay, this guy, is not going to be coming back in this fight. So they actually threw in the towel between rounds. So he's not a finisher.
No, he's not. It's not. No, Ashmo's pulled out, unfortunately. But yeah, in steps Joe Solecki. So we'll see how that works out for him. All right, let's move on to the next fight. It is Fatima Klein going against Victoria Dudakova. We got Klein, 24 years old, 5'6", with a 67-inch reach. Dudakova, 25 years old, 5'5", with a 67-inch reach. It's going to be Klein who's 1 year younger, and she's going to have a 1-inch height advantage. Fatima Klein, she is 4-1 in her last 5 fights. She made her debut, I believe, on short notice up a weight class against Jasmine Jazz the Vicious, lost that fight by decision. And as far as Victoria Dudakova, she's 4-1 in her last 5 fights. She made her debut against, I think, Estela Nunez, won that fight by injury, knockout. She beat Jinyu Fry by decision, and then she lost to Sam Hughes by decision. So this is one of the very first fights I taped the other day, and I'm taped the fight. I'm like, wow, I actually really like Fatima Klein here in this matchup. I think Dudakova's kind of a fraud. Did not like what I saw from her in the Fry fight. Did not like what I saw from her in the Hughes fight. And I'm like, yeah, Klein, I really like what I see. She trains with Erin Blanchfield. She has really good striking, a grappling background. She has a million grappling matches on her record. So, yeah, I'm like, I like Klein a lot. And then I look at the line, and I'm like, what? Minus 1,000? How does that even make sense? Minus 1,000? So it looks like the trend of juice is going to continue, at least early on to 2025. Minus 1,000. I just don't know how you can get there. But yeah, I mean, I like Klein. I think you got to pick Klein, but 10 units to win one. I don't know. What do you think, Weezy?
Yeah, I mean, when you're looking at a minus 1,000 line, that's like a 91% implied probability. So where's your edge? I mean, does your model telling you that she's got a 99% chance of winning? Because if your model is telling you that any fighter has got a 99% chance to win, your model sucks. So, I don't know how these numbers, like, if, women's fights, if the bookie doesn't open them up at minus 1,000, it means that there are people that when it's at minus 500, they're betting it heavy and it goes to minus 600. Then it gets bet heavy again, and now it's minus 800. So people are betting these lines. They are parlaying these lines. So that's scary because, you're laying minus 1,000 on a girl who's 0-1 in the UFC. And, really outside of the UFC, she hasn't beaten anybody that's of any consequence. Sarakova is like 6-6 as a pro. Andressa Romero is, I'm not even sure who she is. I've never heard of Natalia Kuziutuna. I know that she beat Laura Gallardo, who was a alternate on the Ultimate Fighter when Juliana Pena was coaching. She was somebody that came in as an alternate because one of the fighters got hurt, and Klein got a win over her. It's probably her best win, as a professional. So, yeah, there's a lot of unknowns still on the Fatima Klein side. She's 24 years old, but she really looks the part, Brady. The striking looks really good. She's out there switching stances. She looks really clean and technical, and the ground game is very good. Obviously she's a very high-level grappler, BJJ black belt, if I'm not mistaken. So, but Dudakova is a pretty good fighter, and I think she had staff in both of her in the Hughes fight and the Fry fight. I think she had
a staff on her ass, and I think both of them.
Yeah. So because of that, she might not. We might have seen like a much worse version of her. She's a good grappler in her own right. She's got functional striking. She shouldn't be plus 600 here, but Klein's the A side. She's a really good she's a really good prospect who appears to be very well-rounded. She just appears to be able to get it done on the feet, in the clinch, on the mat, and whether she's on top or on the bottom, when she's on the mat, she looks like her BJJ is very aggressive and very useful. So, yeah, I think Klein wins here, but this is probably going to be one of the first, like, real stay away fights of the year for me, because you're looking at a minus 1,000 favorite, but then they're also telling you that this fight goes to decision 70% of the time. So 7 out of 10 times the judges are going to have to stamp your win ticket at minus 1,000. That's a terrifying proposition in the UFC.
Yeah, and who knows? Maybe this fight doesn't even happen. Like if I'm the commission, I'm checking her ass. I'm checking her ass because she's had staff on her ass the last 2 times. Like, how are they allowing that?
I don't know, man. And what does that say about her, hygiene habits? How does that keep happening? Staff on the same place and it's on your ass?
Yeah.
I mean, what is she doing with her free time, Brady?
God only knows.
Yeah, that's true, because it's not you or me don't know. So, yeah, I'd like to see her not having staff, and maybe we see a better version of Dudakova, because she's still only 25 years old. She's still 8-1 as a pro, and it's not like she got her ass shaved in the Sam Hughes fight. This is a girl that's still a pretty good prospect. So, hopefully she looks a lot better than plus 600. Hopefully this is a little bit more competitive of a fight. But, yeah, I think Klein's going to look much better at 115 against Victoria Dudakova than she did on 1 week's notice up at 125 versus freaking Jazz Davicius, who's got like retard strength in the clinch. Anybody tries to take down Jasmine, they wind up on their backs. I mean, Jasmine is next level strong in the clinch when it comes to getting those body lock takedowns.
Yeah, and she had her moments against Jasmine too. Like she looked fine. She's just the physicality, the size was too much, which rightfully so with Jasmine.
Yeah.
So yeah, Klein opened up. So she opened up minus 225, which and it got hammered to minus 1,000, and it's back to minus 950. Dudakova opened up plus 190. She went all the way to plus 700, and she's currently a plus 650. The over under set at 2.5. The over 2.5 is minus 260. And the under 2.5 is plus 200. So back-to-back fights with a massive favorite.
Yep, and that's where we're going. I mean, this is what these cards have turned into. Everybody that's minus 200 it should be minus 200 is minus 400. It's very rare you find these 50-50 fights where people really find good reasons to like both sides. So yeah, it's getting tricky, man. It's getting tricky because you got to lay a ton of juice to bet on some of these favorites.
Yep, that's true. Ass staff has to be a red flag. It has to be, and it keeps happening. I'm starting to get kind of worried. Fatima finishes Dudakova. Yeah, I think that's definitely on the table. Like Klein has a pretty good ground and pound if she gets on top. She obviously is a very, very good grappler. And Dudakova, if she comes in there with that staff ass again, the cardio could be in question. So yeah, I don't mind Fatima finish at big plus money. Hit the like, or you might get staff on your ass. Well, I might have to go hit the like then. I don't want that. That sounds terrible. Brady sounded pretty eager to be an ass inspector. Well, somebody's got to do it, right? And
hey man,
I guess I'll be the guy. That's
right, dude. That's why Brady's one of the greats in this business, is because he'll do things that other people won't. He's that first guy. Hey, who wants to solve this difficult problem on the board? That's Brady's hand going up. Who wants to inspect this ass?
Exactly. So
that's what heroes do.
Exactly. Not all heroes wear capes. That's right. That's for damn sure. All right.
Okay.
I beg your pardon. Let's move on to the next fight. It is. Let me get to the right slide. I can't believe I pulled that up on accident. Magomed Gadzhiyasulov. Speaking of ass, Magomed Gadzhiyasulov going against Bruno Lopes. We got Gadzhiyasulov, 31 years old, 6'2" with a 75-inch reach. Bruno Lopes, 31 years old, 6'2" with a 74-inch reach. Same age there, same height there, and it's going to be Gadzhiyasulov with a 1-inch reach advantage. Magomed Gadzhiyasulov, 5-0 in his last 5 fights, a decision win against Jose Medina on the Contender Series, which actually gave both men a contract in that fight, and then a decision win against Brenton Ribeiro in his UFC debut. As far as Bruno Lopes, he had 2 fights on the Contender Series. One was a knockout loss to Brenton Ribeiro, where he was a massive favorite, and then he went out there and what was his? Oh, he went on there on the Contender Series again, and they got a second round knockout win. So this is one I need to look into a little bit more. I recognize both guys a little bit from the Contender Series and all that, but yeah, another wideish line here. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, Lopez is a LFA 205-pound champion. He won it versus Paiva. He defended it versus Brigagao, but he won it versus Paiva. Then he got his shot because he was the LFA light heavyweight champion to be on Dana White's Contender Series. He fought Brenson Ribeiro. He got knocked out in the first round. It's like a minus 600 favorite in that fight. Then he went back to LFA, defended the belt against Marcos Brigagao, got a late second round submission in that fight, and then Lopez gets the knockout over Saul Jazani on Dana White's Contender Series, and now here he is. And he's fighting Gadzhiyasulov, who this guy, dude, if you want to see some fucking cans, Brady, watch the guys that Gadzhiyasulov fought before he got into the UFC. He fought one guy with a pulse, and that was Mohammed Saeed Malem, the fighting pride of the proud country of Algeria. And then before that, he's fighting like 5'7" light heavyweights that are just obese, and like like,
oh God,
dude, like some of these pictures, like there's Denis Gvozdev from Belarus, tough guy, 1-4 record, but that one win was a scrappy performance. Zemo. That dude looks pretty tough. I wouldn't want to fight that guy, but he's 2-3.
Yeah.
There was even like, I think one of his fights, if you look on Sherdog, they were like, we're not even counting this fight. That's how bad the opponent was. It was some cab driver or something like that. So Gadzhiyasulov was somebody that got like these hand-picked opponents. He's out of KHK MMA in Bahrain, where they've got guys like Muhammad Makayev over there, some good fighters, Shamil Gaziev. So he fights out of a good camp, and he's had the right build-up. They definitely gave him some guys that he could handle. He got a win in Brave over Mohammed Saeed Malem. Then he got that win over the Bolivian Homer Simpson, Jose Medina, on Dana White's Contender Series. And then he gets the win over Ribeiro as a like almost minus 300 favorite. But you could tell that Gadzhiyasulov is a guy that's going to go out there and win minutes at this range. Once he's up at the UFC, he's not really going to be a finisher. He's a wrestler who can top time you. He can win some minutes at distance striking range. He's very technical on the feet. He manages range really well. He can kind of pick you apart if you just stand in front of him because he uses his kicks really well. And it's hard when you're a boxer to try to close the range on somebody that's throwing kicks. So Gadzhiyasulov in the UFC, Brady, this guy's going to be a minute winner. I wouldn't bet this guy to finish anybody at this level. Bruno Lopes is a finisher. This guy's finished 11 of his 13 wins. He's got real power in his hands, and he's got a good submission game when he gets on top of you. Good arm triangle choke for Bruno Lopes. I think that's how he's gotten most of his submissions, is via the arm triangle. So with Lopes, you got a guy who I think is going to be more dangerous wherever the fight goes. I think he's going to be more likely to get a knockout while this fight is standing. I also think he's going to be more likely to get a submission if this fight gets to the ground. But I think Magomed's the better minute winner here. So I wouldn't be laying minus 220 on Gadzhiyasulov. I think if you're playing him, you play him to win by decision. But Bruno Lopes sitting between plus 185 and plus 190. I haven't pulled the trigger on it yet. This guy Gadzhiyasulov is just okay. He's a minute winner and not much else. He's really technical. He seems to know when to wrestle, but he doesn't deal with pressure particularly well. And I think that Lopes can get him on his heels and land some big shots here. So I think I might be taking a shot on the Bruno Lopes money line this week.
Yeah, all I know is I haven't been impressed with Gadzhiyasulov's and any of his fights thus far. Not the Medina fight. I mean, they gave Medina a contract. I mean, that's all you really need to know for that one. And then even like the Ribeiro fight, like Ribeiro was having success in that one. So, yeah, when we're talking about like minus 240 on some books, I don't know. Looks like Lopes is plus 200, best price out there. But the over-under set at 2.5, the over 2.5 plus 130, the under 2.5 is minus 160. I'm like you, like I can't imagine what a Gadzhiyasulov finish even looks like. Like this guy has no urgency. I don't think he's dangerous at all. So I kind of think if Gadzhiyasulov's winning, it's by decision.
He's really comfortable if you just stand in front of him. He'll mix in some takedowns and win some minutes. He'll kind of outpoint you at distance. But if you make this dude fight, if you start pressuring him, you start making him get on his back foot, he doesn't not look comfortable at all. He's just a very, very technical fighter. And you don't fight technical fights against guys like that. So I think Bruno Lopes can maybe put him on his heels here. And if he does that, I think he's going to look a lot better than plus 185, plus 190, which is where I'm seeing him on a lot of the books right now.
For sure. I got to look into that one a little bit more, but yeah, first look, I think it's dog or pass for sure. I mean, I couldn't stomach laying minus 240 on that guy. Over 1.5. Yep. When the alternate over under shows up and the over 1.5 is out there, I wouldn't mind that depending on the line.
Agreed. Yeah, I think this one does go over, but Bruno Lopes got some real power. So we'll see, man, because he's finished 11 of 13 wins. And Gadzhiyasulov hasn't really been tested. I mean, dude, Brenson Ibero had him in a really deep choke, a really deep mounted guillotine choke at one point, and he landed a couple of good shots, had Magomed backing up. It was just that Brenson couldn't stop the takedowns once Magomed decided he was going to wrestle.
Yep. For sure. We got Dravi in the building. Good to see you, yes. Dravi. What's up, boys? Welcome back. Glad to be back. And Blom just saying attempted to play Lopes too. Both are I think both are future fades for me as well. All right, let's keep moving on. We have Ernesta Kareckaite going against Nicolle Caliari. We got Kareckaite, 26 years old, 5'9" with a 71-inch reach. Caliari, she is 28 years old, 5'3" with a 62-inch reach. We have Kareckaite 2 years younger. She's going to have a 6-inch height advantage and a 9-inch reach advantage. Kareckaite 3-1 and 1 draw in her last 5 fights. Decision win against Carly Giudice, and then a decision loss to Diane Barbosa in a close fight. As far as Caliari, she is 4-1 in her last 5 fights. Had a submission win on the Contender Series. Another WMMA fight where we have a really big favorite. I think Kareckaite is around like minus 300. Both these girls are Contender Series fighters, right? I know for sure Caliari was on the Contender Series, but what about
Kareckaite as well? She fought Carly Giudice on the Contender Series. Giudice took the fight on very short notice, and it was a banger. It was a dilly of a fight, Brady. 186 significant strikes for Kareckaite, like 160 for Giudice. It was a fun fight.
Yep, I remember that one where they hit each other in the face a million times.
Yep, they sure did, man.
Heck yeah. So what are you doing with this one?
So Kareckaite is a pretty good prospect, in my opinion. She's still only 26 years old. I love the output. I love the conditioning, and I love the size. You know, she's 5'9" with a 71-inch reach in the women's flyweight division. She's tall, she's long, she pressures on the feet, she throws a ton of volume, and she can keep that pace up for the full 3 rounds because she was a competitive swimmer prior to switching over to MMA. So she's been an athlete her whole life. So I think Kareckaite is a pretty good prospect. There's a couple of problems with her, though. Number one, the striking defense is not good, man. She blocks punches with her face. So she's getting hit entirely too much for my liking. Number two, she can be taken down and held down. She had 2 fights with Letitia Blow, right? Letitia Blow is a little tiny 5'2" flyweight, 39-year-old French woman with a judo background. And every time Letitia closed the distance and got into that clinch against Kareckaite, she's getting her down and she's top timing her. So I don't think Ernesta's ground game is up to where it needs to be yet in order to win minutes consistently at the UFC level. And I don't like the striking defense. But if you're the type of fighter that's going to get tired, because Ernesta's tough, she's durable, she's tough. You could tell that she's got that dog in her. But the thing about Caliari is that she's got this karate background and a 100% finish rate. So this is an interesting fight, Brady, because when I was looking at it originally, I'm like, all right, it's a women's fight. You kind of want to side with the minute winners because you just don't see a lot of finishes in women's fights. And Ernesta's an excellent minute winner, so I get why she's the favorite here. But there's paths for Caliari. She hits extremely hard. Yes, she's 6 inches shorter. Yes, she's at a 9-inch reach disadvantage, but she hits very hard. She's finished 100% of her wins. She's got a very dangerous submission game as well. And I think Caliari can land the bigger shots in this fight. And I also think that she could get takedowns from the clinch here and get some top time and land some ground and pound and potentially get Ernesta into a couple of bad positions where she can threaten with submissions. So Kareckaite at minus 270, no. Kareckaite by decision, maybe, if the price is right. Because I think that, or a decision-only prop, because Nicolle Caliari's never won a decision. She's always been somebody that's been able to rely on finding that finish whenever it does come. So you don't want to count on those fighters, especially when they're debutantes at the UFC level. They're taking steps up in competition. They're not all of a sudden going to turn into efficient minute winners when they've never won a decision in their careers. So I think Kareckaite by decision, but I also think a finish-only prop on somebody like Caliari could be a cheeky look this week, because I think she's got a lot of the submission upside in this fight, and I think she's got a lot of the power differential in this fight. I think favors Caliari. I mean, you look at this girl; she's yoked, Brady. She looks
I'm looking at her right now.
Yeah, right. I mean, like she's got a body on her, man. Nicolle Caliari has got a body on her, while Ernesta Kareckaite, she's a surfboard. Like her body is exactly like a surfboard. You know, it's tall, completely flat. When she turns sideways, she almost becomes invisible. You know, so Caliari's got some strength. She's going to be the much stronger girl here. She's got a lot more power. She's got all the submission upside. And then you look and you see Kareckaite's minus 270. I think there's some value on the Caliari side this week.
Yeah, this is one I'm going to have to look into a lot more later tonight once the wife and the kid go to bed. Nicolle Caliari.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
She's got a body on her, Brady. I'll tell you that right now.
Yep. The new Caliari hype video just dropped.
Did it? Dude, I want to see it.
Where's the music? There was an update on StreamYard. I don't know anything where everything's at now.
Okay, yeah. Look at that balance. That's somebody with a judo background right there, my friend. You don't see that kind of balance.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
I like the balance.
That's what we're looking at, Brady. We're looking at the balance. We're not looking at anything else there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I know who I'm picking. In this one.
Plus 230 underdog, Brady? What do you think? Does that look like a girl you want to be fading right about now?
It's getting hot in here.
She's a dog person, too.
It's getting hot.
She gets extra points for that, in my opinion.
Nice.
Damn, is that a beautiful view, by the way.
It is a beautiful view. I wonder if that's like an Airbnb or if she owns that property.
Oh, yeah, the trees are nice, too. Yeah, actually. Yeah. Yep, Nicolle Caliari, man. I think she might be a little bit finisher bust, Brady, but like, you know, Ernesta's a minute winner. Yeah, I don't think she's going to be finishing ladies up at this level unless they gas, unless they get really tired. Because Ernesta is somebody that can turn up that volume as the fight goes on, because she's got phenomenal conditioning and a ton of output, but she gets hit a lot, man. And somebody like Nicolle, who's got natural power and finishing instincts, could maybe find a finish here.
Oh, I'm gonna find a finish pretty soon. Pretty soon here. If you'll excuse me, I gotta go find my own finish. Oh my god. Oh my gosh. Wow. I about finished it there. Yeah, we like to cover all angles on Stat Diggers. So yeah, get that off there. All right, I'm gonna kick this off, and I gotta go.
Hilarious.
I gotta go use the restroom in a second. I'm gonna kick this one off for you. We got Jacobe Smith coming in here on short notice, taking on Preston Parsons. We got Parsons, 29 years old, 5'11", with a 71-inch reach. Jacobe Smith, 28 years old, 5'10", with a 72-inch reach. We got Smith 1 year younger. It's going to be Parsons with a 1-inch height advantage and a 1-inch reach disadvantage. Preston Parsons is 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Knockout loss to Daniel Rodriguez, a decision win against Evan Elder, a decision loss against Officer Trevin Giles, a decision win against Matthew Semmelsberger, then a decision loss to Oban Elliott. As far as Jacobe Smith, 5-0 in his last 5 fights, had a second-round knockout win on the Contender Series, and he is coming in here on short notice, making his debut. Jacobe Smith, I believe wrestling background, a ton of power in his hands. I think we got a fun fight on our hands here, Weezy. What are your thoughts on this one? And again, I got to go change.
Go do that.
Yeah.
Go do that. I'll take us through this fight.
Yep.
And unfortunately, I haven't taped Jacobe Smith yet because this fight was just made yesterday. But I was ready for the Parsons Gustafsson fight. And I thought that was going to be like a wall install kind of just clinch war. And with Jacobe, you got somebody who's a lot more explosive and a lot more athletic. You know, Preston, it's not his speed or his explosiveness that makes him a dangerous fighter. He's more of a grinder. He's gonna wear on you. He's gonna walk forward, make you walk backwards. He throws with a little bit of power. He's gonna attempt a lot of takedowns and kind of put a pace on you. But with Jacobe Smith, you got somebody who's just such an explosive and natural athlete, and somebody who can match the wrestling of Preston Parsons. And, you know, we think of Preston Parsons as a wrestler, but he's not somebody that was like a high school wrestler. You know, he's an MMA wrestler, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And as a matter of fact, in a lot of cases, it's better to be an MMA wrestler than like an NCAA wrestler, because those high-level NCAA wrestlers are used to wrestling for 6 minutes, while, you know, guys who just start wrestling specifically for the purpose of MMA, they learn how to kind of, you know, blend it in a little bit better with their striking so that they can, you know, take advantage of when the best time is to shoot those takedowns. And somebody like Smith is going to be very difficult to take down and hold down. But I don't know much about Smith's game yet because I still have to watch all the tape. I know that he was fighting in Fury FC. I know that he never had a title fight in Fury FC. And when I kind of look through the records of these guys that he was fighting, it doesn't look like he's fought a very high level of competition. So with Preston Parsons, you got a guy that's about the same age, about the same size, but who's got a lot more pro experience. He's got 5 more fights at the UFC level, and he's faced a much higher level of competition. So, and then with Jacobe Smith taking this fight on literally 1 week's notice, we just got the notice that he was taking this fight yesterday. So 1 week out, you got a weight cut going in on with that too. So I would be careful about laying this kind of juice on Jacobe Smith at like what, minus 350, minus 400 right now. But this kid clearly appears to be the kind of prospect that, even though that, you know, it's kind of ridiculous to lay minus 400 on a short notice fighter making their debut against somebody more established. You also know that this kid, Jacobe Smith, if he fights up to his potential, that this kid's going to have a number next to his name, you know, very soon, because he really looks Brady to be the real deal from what I've seen so far.
Yep, I'm back. Everything's
welcome
good.
Back, Brady.
Yep. The things we do for our fans. The things we do. The things we do. So yeah, I think it's a pretty rough matchup for Parsons. Parsons probably looking to get the fight down to the ground. Not sure if that's going to be on the table here. And then on the feet, Parsons blocks punches with his face, and Smith hits like an absolute truck. And then Smith can also wrestle, get on top, and his ground and pound, some of the most vicious ground and pound you'd see. So yeah, I'm really glad Smith is in the UFC. He was one of my favorite prospects on last year's Contender Series. And this is short notice, but kind of seems like a solid matchup for him as long as the cardio holds up, which I think it does. He's been to decision before. He has 2 decision wins. Doesn't really seem to have cardio issues, but yeah, again, short notice would be the one thing. He opened up minus 210. He's currently minus 355. And then Preston Parsons opened up plus 180, currently plus 280. The over-under set at 1.5. The over 1.5, minus 155. The under 1.5 is plus 125. So pretty big favorite, but that's kind of expected. I think this guy's a lot of hype on him.
Ton of hype. But yeah, I mean, Smith 7-0 to the KO as a pro. Preston Parsons 0-2 to the KO as a pro. But Preston Parsons is 9 wins and 1 loss to the sub as a professional, while Jacobe Smith is 0-0. So Preston Parsons might be able to find some success on the ground with his grappling game, with his Brazilian jiu-jitsu. But Jacobe Smith is clearly the guy that's got more power in his hands and He's never been knocked out, while we've seen Parsons get knocked out in 2 of his 5 pro losses. So, yeah, going to be an interesting prospect to keep our eyes on here at Jacobe Smith.
Oh, yeah. Jacobe to shave the ass of Yeah, he shaved the ass of many guys. I confuse Parsons with the guy with the mullet. So there's 2 Parsons. There's Preston Parsons, and there's Johnny Parsons. And you were thinking of Johnny Parsons, who we have not seen in a while. So hopefully we see him back this year.
Yeah, Johnny's injury problems, constant injury problems. I think concussions for Johnny. That's why we haven't seen him.
Yeah, with a mullet like that, you're bound to get injured, quite a bit.
It's an aggressive mullet, and aggressive people have aggressive mullets. And when you're that aggressive, there's going to be some injuries.
That's for sure. That is for sure. All right, moving on to the next fight. It is Thiago Moises going against Trey Ogden. We got Moises, 29 years old, 5'9" with a 70-inch reach. Trey Ogden, 35 years old, 5'11" with a 72-inch reach. Moises 6 years younger. Ogden with a 2-inch height advantage and a 2-inch reach advantage. Moises is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. A submission win against Christos Giagos, a submission win against Mel Costa, a knockout loss to Benoit Saint-Denis, knockout win against Mitch Ramirez, and then a decision loss to Ludovic Klein. As far as Trey Ogden, he is 3-1 and 1 no contest in his last 5 fights. A decision win against Daniel Zellhuber, decision loss against Ignacio Bahamondes, no contest against Nicholas Moda, and then a decision win against Kurt Hollabaugh and Loic Rajabov. And yeah, this is an interesting fight here. I mean, Trey Ogden's a guy that I've had a really tough time getting a read on him. I remember when I bet Trey Ogden against Jordan Levitt, and I wanted to, bust my TV. Somehow we got outstruck against Jordan Levitt, and then I'm like, the next fight he fights Daniel Zellhuber, and I'm like, okay, if this guy is getting outstruck by Jordan Levitt, Zellhuber's gonna have a field day, right? And then I lay like minus 250 on Daniel Zellhuber, and then Ogden outstrikes Daniel Zellhuber across 15 minutes. Like, what's going on? This makes no sense whatsoever. So I've just had a tough time with Trey Ogden fights. What I will say, though, he's a very, very smart fighter. He's a coach. He comes in there with great game plans, and being that smart does lead to some kind of boring performances. I'd say his last 2 fights were not that exciting to watch, but he's going out there. He knows how to win minutes. And yeah, so it's an interesting one. This is an interesting fight because it's like, what approach is Ogden going to take? Is he going to try to take down Thiago Moises, who's a legit BJJ black belt? Ogden has been submitted multiple times in his career. So if he does that, he might be playing with fire, and then on the feet could be competitive. I don't know. It's kind of a tricky one, but most Ogden fights are, for me at least. Weezy, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, pre-tape, when I was looking at the Moises-Ogden matchup and I looked at where the line was, I was like, okay, Trey Ogden at plus 160, 170. I kind of like that because he's a good game planner. He's got a good ground game. And he kind of tends to hypnotize his opponent into fighting his fight. And he's done that numerous times at the UFC level and gotten wins that people just didn't think he was going to get. And then I taped Trey Ogden, and I was like, oh boy, this is a good matchup for Thiago Moises because Trey's just not dangerous anywhere, right? He can be dangerous on the ground if he's a much better grappler than you, but he's not a better grappler than Thiago Moises is. And when I see Trey on the feet, he's got a jab, he's got a low kick, he's got a check left hook, and not much else. And frankly, Brady, he's got 0 power. This guy is not knocking out anybody. He's got 25 professional fights, Trey Ogden. Never once has any of those 25 fights ended by knockout, whether it's a Trey Ogden knockout or whether it's Trey getting knocked out. All of his fights end by submission or decision. So Trey's going to have to outpoint Moises. Now, I don't think he's taken down Moises and top timing him. I think Moises might even be the better wrestler here. He's definitely the better Brazilian jiu-jitsu player, but I think he might be the better wrestler. And when I watch the striking, like Thiago Moises's distance striking metrics at the UFC level are dismal, dude. I mean, they're really bad. But you got to keep in mind that this guy's got 13 fights, and the guys that have beaten him, 6 guys, have beaten Moises at the UFC level. Those guys' UFC records combined are 55 wins and 16 losses. So Thiago Moises is losing to the best of the best fighters. And that's been like half of his opponents at the UFC level. So I'm not sure where Trey's better than Thiago. I don't think it's in the clinch. I don't think it's at distance striking range. I don't think it's in the grappling. I don't think he's more durable than Thiago. I don't like Thiago. When Thiago loses, Brady, it's because he gets bullied. He gets broken almost every time that he loses. It's because he just gets broken right in half. And it becomes really clear at some point in the fight that he's not going to win this fight. The Benoit Saint-Denis fight is a perfect example of that. You look at guys like Ludovic Klein and Bobby Green, who just outpointed him. You know, you can outpoint this guy if you're the better striker. You can bully this dude. But I think Moises is going to be the bully in this fight. And when he's the bully, he finishes his opponents. So I don't just think Thiago is going to win. I think he's probably going to finish Trey Ogden. I think he's probably going to submit him because I just don't think that Trey is going to have anything that's going to make Thiago worried. And if you don't get Thiago worried in there, he's going to beat you.
Yeah. Yeah, I might take a look at that Moises sub when it comes out. Because Ogden's been sub 3 times, and twice was Thomas Gifford.
Yeah, both by guillotine. He got guillotined twice by the same guy.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind a shot on that Moises sub. But yeah, Moises opened at -210. He was -145 December 31st, and now he's -200. As far as Ogden opened up +180, currently +170. The over-under is set at 2.5 rounds, and the over 2.5 is -260. The under 2.5 is +200. We know Ogden's not finishing anybody ever, but Moises definitely could potentially finish here and finish by sub. So that sub might be something I don't mind. Ogden has been shaving asses. I wouldn't say shaving asses, but he has been winning a lot of minutes. He's been fighting smart. He's been fighting smart, winning minutes. Really boring, just dreadful fights to watch, but he's getting wins, and I guess that's all that really matters at the end of the day. Moises still in his 20s. Still in his 20s. It feels like he's been in the UFC forever at this point. Small World saying, Wheezy, please read. He says, Moises, only 2 wins and like 2 or 3 wins are literally short notice debutants. Make of that as you will.
Yeah, and that is an excellent point because the Mitch Ramirez fight was taken on short notice. I think Mel Costa might have been a short notice opponent. You know, Christos Giagos isn't a great win. And I think if you look at those last 5 fights, you say to yourself, okay, yeah, like this isn't, he's not beating great guys, but you go back a little bit further for Thiago Moises, and he's having, you know, he beats Michael Johnson. He wins a unanimous decision over Bobby Green. He had a really nice performance against Alexander Hernandez. And after that Hernandez fight, here's the losses. Islam Makhachev, the current champion. Joel Alvarez, who's an absolute problem. Benoit Saint-Denis, who's a very hot fighter. And then Ludovic Klein, who's stringing together a bunch of wins right now. You know, all of those guys would be massive favorites over Trey Ogden right now. You know? So while Moises' recent wins over Mitch Ramirez, Melk Costa, Christos Giagos, they don't really blow your socks off. But guess what, dude? He shaved all 3 of those dudes' asses. He did. He went through them like nothing. And before he lost to Islam Makhachev, he's on a 3-fight winning streak against Alexander Hernandez, Bobby Green, and Michael Johnson. So you know, he's a good fighter. You know, Thiago Moises is somebody I think that, you know, he's looked really bad and he's looked really good, but he doesn't get a lot of those middle of the road opponents. And Trey Ogden is a middle of the road opponent. I think Thiago might run through him.
Yeah, I actually really like Thiago Moises quite a bit. I've always liked Thiago Moises. I've always thought he's underrated. I've thought his striking was underrated. Thought his grappling's incredible. But yeah, there are a lot of hit and miss performances, but that has to do with, I think, the competition, right? Like you mentioned, he's not going out there and beating Benoit Saint-Denis, Islam Makhachev, but he can run over some of these other guys. So, and I absolutely hate Trey Ogden. I hate Trey Ogden so much. He's cost me so much money. So yeah, Trey Ogden, I hate the guy. How do you lose a fight? How do you get outstruck by Jordan Levitt and then outstrike Daniel Zellhuber? It makes no sense to me. But so yeah, we'll see. But yeah, money's coming in on Moises. The -200 is not as enticing as the -150 was a couple days ago.
Yeah, the money is coming in on Moises. I think the people that got in before got a really good price, and now I think it's and these lines they just keep getting more and more blown out. If you don't want to pay minus 200, you're gonna have to pay minus 220 in a couple of days because that's the way it always goes, man. These favorites just get juiced.
And I think it might get even more juice because Nick Alexander bringing it up. Moises is that fighting nerd. We're going to get the fighting nerds tax on Moises. The fighting nerds tax is going to be in play here.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, like those guys are red hot right now, man. They don't know how to lose.
So he's going to come out there with those glasses with no lenses in them. I love it. I think that's a great fit for Moises there. I like that.
And he was already an American top team, one of the best teams in the entire world. He was already training with those guys over there. So yeah, to go from ATT to fighting nerds, that's a great look, dude.
All right, I'm sold.
Still only 29 years old too.
I'm sold. Moises by sub. I'll take a look at it. Drobby saying, agree with Wheezy. Moises slightly better everywhere. Fought the much better competition, and he's younger. All is very, very true. Yeah. And Glenn saying it as well. To Drobby's point, he's also fighting at Fighting Nerds too. Now cross training. I like to hear that. Shaving the judges' asses. Some of them they do need shaved. Trey Ogden winning a clean decision here would be the least surprising thing. Yeah, if Ogden wins, it's going to be just a boring fight. Just a boring fight. Thiago sub, it is written. Let's get it. I'll be taking a look at that sub prop. We got our guy Lou in the building. Good to see you, Lou. Hopefully you had a phenomenal break. Saying, what's up, boys? Bray with no beard is a horrible way to start the year. I do have a beard. It's trimmed, but it'll be back in a couple of days. So shout out to our guy, Lou Betcha. Good to see you in here. Moises did his last 2 camps at Fighting Nerds. There you go. I believe. I'm not sure he's there 100% now based on his Insta. Okay, I didn't know that.
Nice.
I did not know that. All right. I'd say we move on then. Oh, did we talk about the total? Yeah, so the under is plus 200. The over is minus 260. I don't know. I think it's kind of correlated with the fighter in a sense. Like Ogden's not finishing anybody, but Moises could potentially get a finish. So I might look at just a prop, like a sub prop maybe.
Yeah, like Trey Ogden has had 6 fights in the UFC. Only one of them is finished inside the distance, and it was due to referee error.
Yeah.
But Moises, 50% of his fights have finished inside the distance. So it's an interesting one because, it depends on which one of these guys winds up, putting their pace on their opponent. If you get a Trey Ogden pace, this thing's going to decision. If you get a Thiago Moises pace, it probably finishes inside the distance.
Yep. That is true. So, yeah, that's a good one there. Let's move on to the next fight. It is Marco Tulio going against Ehor Petry. We got Tulio, 30 years old, 6 foot with a 74-inch reach. Petry, 28 years old, 6'3" with a 75-inch reach. Petry, 2 years younger, 3-inch height advantage and a 1-inch reach advantage. Tulio, 5-0 in his last 5 fights, had a knockout win on the Contender Series. As far as Petry, he is 1-4 in his last 5 fights. Knockout loss to Carlos Ulberg in the first round. Knockout loss to Rodolfo Bellado in the second round. Decision win against Robert Brichek. A submission loss to Michel Pereira in the first 60 seconds. And then a decision loss to Cesar Almeida. And by the way, Tulio did also have a decision win against Yuri Belgario in the Contender Series as well. So he went 2-0 in the Contender Series. So the thing about this fight is, of course, we got another inflated line. We got Tulio minus 500 here. And I'm impressed with Petry, which is crazy to say, Weezy, because he's 1-4 in his last 5 fights. But I'm impressed that he's still here. I didn't expect him to still be here, several fights into his UFC career. I thought this guy was going to be 3 fights and done. But he's going out there, and he is losing a lot of fights, but he's showing some moments in a lot of these fights. Like Bellato, like that fight could have been stopped. Petry could have very well finished Rodolfo Bellato. Like that fight really could have been stopped there. And then he's had some moments. He was able to survive 15 minutes against Cesar Almeida. Has some other moments in some other fights, but yeah, he's still losing nonetheless. So for me, I like Tulio. It's hard for me to really ever pick Petry to win a fight, but I don't know if I can lay minus 500 on Marco Tulio here. I think the total is more interesting than anything for me on this one, but yeah, as far as the money line, it's not even, it's just a pass for me. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, the Tulio is definitely a hyped prospect because, not only did he get to the UFC through the Contender Series, but he had to go twice, and he went out there and he beat Belgari who's a really good kickboxer, and he looked good in that fight. And Dana said that he just didn't see it, so he didn't get the contract. He goes back to the regional scene. He beats Semedo Santos, like a 6-4 fighter. And then he comes back and he beats Duclos, looks good doing it. This time he gets the contract. And when you look at his regional scene resume, it's solid. He's fought some decent guys in Brazil. He's a shootbox Diego Lima guy. He's got 8 knockouts, only 1 submission, but it's pretty clear that he's got good grappling, but he really does have great power. Like if you watch the Glico Franco fight for Marco Tulio, so Franco used to fight in the UFC. He fought as low as middleweight, as low as lightweight. But now he's moved up a couple of weight classes. Franca's crotch sniffing, just trying to stick to him. At one point, Tulio gets up. He lands one right hand, Brady. And dude, Franca just absolutely collapsed and just covered up. Like you could tell, one right hand and it was over. So this guy, Tulio, he's got fight-changing power and good camp. There, even though he's got 8 knockouts and only 1 submission, you could tell when you watch the tape, this guy can get it done on the ground as well. So very good prospect. But Petry is 2-5 in the UFC, but that Bellato fight, I picked Bellato for the ass shaving of the week. I had a Bellato bet, for him to win inside the distance. Dude, if I actually had a ticket, I would have been tearing that ticket up, because that fight should have been stopped. Petry basically knocked out Bellato and then gassed out trying to finish him. So he could be 3-4. And when you look at the guys that he's losing to, 5 losses in the UFC. You add up the UFC records of the 5 guys that beat Ehor, they got records of 23 wins and 7 losses. So Petry is fighting some of the best fighters, in the division. Carlos Ulberg, Stacer Almeida, Michel Pereira was like on a 5 or a 6 fight winning streak when he beat Petry. So, this is not a guy that you want to go out there and short at -500 on the favorite, especially when they're making their debut. And this is going to be one of the toughest opponents that he's ever had. So, yeah, man, Petry is still only 28 years old too, Brady. He's 28 years old and he's got 27 professional fights. So I think that there's still some upside on the Petry side. One of the coolest tattoos in the UFC. I don't know, man. -500 is a little bit crazy, but I get it because this kid Tulio, he looks the part.
Yeah, yep, and people are very low on Ehor Petry as well, so I think that's why we're getting the -500. The total set at 1.5, the over 1.5 -105, the under 1.5 -125. I guess the question is, can Petry hang in there for at least 7.5 minutes? It'd be a sweat, but what do you think?
I think he can, man. That over 1.5 was actually plus money a couple of days ago at +120 or so. Yeah, I mean, dude, if Ehor could survive that ref that was reffing his last fight,
yes.
Let me tell you something, Brady. That was one of the worst reffing performances that I've ever seen, and I'm going to say it right now. I think that referee. I think he was gassed up on goofballs, dude. I think he was honestly like on crystal meth or cocaine while he was reffing that bout. It's not because of the poor performance. The poor performance was a symptom. It was the invisible piece of gum that this guy is chewing. If you've ever seen a real cokehead, Brady, like a real problematic, gassed up on goofballs cokehead, their jaw is just moving all over the place, even though they're not chewing food or they're not talking. When that fight is over and he's sitting there in between them, holding both of their hands, you watch this guy, he's chewing on a piece of invisible gum that's like the size of my fist. And I'm like, wow, after that kind of performance and seeing that kind of jaw movement, I'm calling it. That dude was gassed up on goofballs and he nearly got Ehor Petry's eye poked out in that fight. Like 4 eye pokes, stood him up out of a good position in ground control, took him out of every clinch control position. Just Petry getting through that fight without quitting MMA. means that he's pretty resilient, and maybe he can cash as a plus 350 underdog.
Yeah, I looked up the referee. Somebody actually made a YouTube video about it. It says the worst UFC referee of all time, Dave suggested.
Seljestad. That sounds like a Scandinavian name.
And he called him a stupid idiot in the thumbnail. Jeez.
Yeah, he had a rough performance. And look at that picture. If you look at that picture, the top left, look at his jaw. Oh, did you already? Yeah. Dude, if you look at his jaw, like the bottom part of the jaw is way over to the side. Yeah, man. He gassed up on goofballs. I'm calling it.
Yeah, no, he looks like a guy that would be gassed up on goofballs, to be honest.
He had a terrible performance out there. I mean, I think that him and is in the same Siberian gulag right now with Vyacheslav Kisiev.
I think we give Kisiev one more chance in 2025. Who's with me? Who's with me?
I'm with you. I want to see him back. Just because, like, if there's a fighter that you hate, like, I'd like to see somebody get really badly beaten, you know? Like, I want Kisiev reffing that fight.
I don't think there's any fighters that, like, really hate, though. I mean, I don't like Trey Ogden, but I don't want to see him hurt that bad.
Yeah, I don't want to see these guys hurt.
Yeah,
but, like, in certain cases, like, for instance, if it were Ron McCarthy in a celebrity boxing match against basically anybody, I'd love to see that ref let Ron take a couple extra shots on the ground, you know, because that, yeah, I want to see him hurt. I do want to see. There's certain people, your Uncle Weezy wants to see them hurt. I'm no angel. I'm not better than anybody. I wish bad things on people sometimes too, you know?
Maybe I'm just too nice of a guy, because even like Nate Maness, I'm like, I don't want Nate Maness to get hurt. I'm not happy with him. I'm certainly not happy with Nate Maness, but I don't want him to get hurt.
I don't want him to get hurt either, man. Yeah. My gambling problem is not Nate's problem, you know? So yeah, that's not on Nate, you know, just the fact that he decided he was going to make money betting on himself to win by decision, you know? Yeah. Not downtown TJ Brown either, Kiwi Brew. Oh, I like TJ Brown.
He was good for the content. He was good for the content.
I made a lot of money betting against him, and I made money betting on him when he fought that fraud Eric Silva.
Oh gosh.
TJ was only minus 150, and I laid juice on TJ Brown because I was that convinced that Eric Silva was that big of a fraud.
Yeah, I had the under there, which was nice. So yeah, I miss TJ Brown. I say we bring TJ Brown back in 2025 as well.
Agreed. I want him back too. Shitty haircut and bad tattoos and all, and I want more commercials for that Arkansas adult bookstore too.
Yeah, let's bring Jordan Wright back, the Beverly Hills Ninja, while we're at it. Here. Let's bring all these guys back. I need to get a petition going.
And we're going to create a league with just those fighters, and the only two referees are going to be Vyacheslav Kisiev and Dave Selstad. And I'm telling you, Brady, we're going to put the UFC out of business.
I'm down.
Chris Barnett, Fat Barnett was going to be on every card. Yes. We promise you. Every single card, Fat Barnett's going to have a fight.
Let's go. Malcolm Gordon in there. Okay, this is going to be Kim Winslow reffing. I like it.
Kim Winslow, the people's favorite referee. That's Brady.
Yep. Heck yeah.
Yes.
A new year indeed. And our
sponsor, Avery Marino, just made it possible with that massive donation of $500 earlier in the show. We're going to use that to start this new MMA league, which I'm telling you is going to be entertainment personified, you guys. Get on board.
Let's do it. William Knight will not be invited. William Knight will not be invited to this new league. He will not be invited. He will not be invited to the new league.
We want exciting fights. Yes,
like Shannon Ross. That guy's fun. Yeah,
Shannon Ross for sure. Nao Liang is going to be the women's 125-pound champion. Promise that she's going to start with the belt, and then we're going to fix every fight, just like Patty Pimblett versus Jared Gordon was fixed. We're gonna make sure she never loses.
There we go. We'll make fights 60 seconds long so she never loses. 60-second long fights. Yes, Daniel Da Silva will be invited. He will be invited.
Yes. Absolutely.
Phil Hawes will be
too.
invited. He will
Phil
be
Hawes
invited.
is going to be there, man, for sure, dude. We're going to bring Fat Vellante out of retirement.
Yes.
Dude, Fat Caliari, he's back on the roster. We got spots for you guys.
It's going to be sick. It's going to be sick. Shout out to Avery. All right. Let's move on.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's move on to the next fight. We got Jose Johnson going against Felipe Bunes. We got Jose Johnson, 29 years old, 6 foot with a 71-inch reach. Felipe Bunes, he is 35 years old, 5'7" with a 71-inch reach. We have Johnson is going to be 6 years younger. He's going to have a 5-inch height advantage and got the same reach there between the two. Jose Johnson is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Made his debut against Damon Blackshear, won that fight or lost that fight by submission via twister. Submitted Chad Hellinger in the 3rd round, and then lost the decision to Asu Amabayev. As far as Felipe Bunes, he is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. He made his debut against Joshua Van, lost that fight by 2nd round knockout. I'm actually really looking forward to this fight because I think Jose Johnson is going to kind of finally get the fight he's wanted. He's had some rough matchups like Damon Blackshear. That's a brutal matchup for Jose Johnson there. Asu Amabayev, that is a brutal matchup for him. But Felipe Bunes, I think both these guys are going to go out there and kind of swing dicks a little bit. Of course, Bunes can wrestle a little bit, can grapple a little bit, but I primarily think these guys are going to look to take each other's heads off. And I know this is flyweight, but Charles Johnson is 6 foot, and this guy honestly kills people. I went back and watched some of his fights today where he's put guys in the hospital, some honestly kind of scary fights to watch. There was one where he landed an elbow to the side of the guy's head and the guy started having like a seizure. There was another one where he landed a big shot and the guy just wouldn't get up for like 5 minutes. He had to cut to commercial. Jose Johnson has a ton of power in his hands. He has dynamite in his hands for 125. And he hasn't really got to showcase that, but I kind of think he will be able to here. So I like violence here. I think both these guys have a lot of power. I think both these guys can win by submission. Jose Johnson has some submissions on his record. He's also been submitted a ton. Felipe Bunes has some submissions on his record. He's also been submitted. And like I said, both these guys have power. So I kind of like violence more than anything. In terms of a pick, I do lean towards Jose Johnson. I think he has the better ability to fight later into the fight. We've seen Bunes slow down in a couple of fights, not only the Josh Van fight, but a couple other fights. He's kind of slowing down as the fight goes on, where Jose Johnson, this guy can get finishes late. He finished Chad Hellinger with like 30 seconds left. So I like Jose Johnson, but I like violence a little bit more. Weezy, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, agreed, man. I think Bunes has got really good Brazilian jiu-jitsu, so I could see him potentially getting a submission against Johnson, who's been submitted 4 times as a professional. So, and yeah, I don't think there's a lot of flyweights that want to stand at range with Jose Johnson. I don't think there's a lot of bantamweights, because that's where he used to fight. He used to fight at bantamweight, some at featherweight. This guy's 6 feet tall. And like you said, dude, there's guys that knock people out, and then there's guys that knock people out, and then there's people praying in the cage over a lifeless body, where and Jose Johnson does not look like he's that dude, but he's that dude. Dude, this guy, when he hits you, you don't move, like there's certain guys that have that God-given power, and Jose Johnson is one of those cats. So this is one of those fights that could potentially be life-changing. It's like taking a Karine Silva fight if you're a female. If shit goes tits up, you're going to end up in the hospital. So I like Jose Johnson a lot here. He can present serious problems because of his length. Even though he's not the best grappler, just that length can give people serious problems. So I don't think Bunes is going to have a whole lot of success wrestling and grappling Johnson. And on the feet, dealing with a 6-foot guy with this kind of power, I think is going to be really bad for Bunes, because Bunes does not have the kind of power that Johnson does. So I think Johnson's just going to be a little bit more dangerous everywhere in this fight. He's 5.5 years younger than Felipe. He's a little bit more experienced than Felipe. He's got more high-level experience than Felipe does. And the power, I think, is going to be the big equalizer here. So, yeah, I think Johnson's got most of the finishing upside in this fight. And I think the power differential is gigantic. But if Bunes can get takedowns and top time him and start to look for submissions, that would be his path here, in my opinion. But yeah, I think a fight doesn't go to decision here is a cheeky look. And I think Jose Johnson's money line probably cashes this week.
Yeah, let's take a look at the odds. Jose Johnson opened up minus 250. He's currently minus 175. Felipe Bunes opened up plus 210. He's currently plus 150. If the odds were based on who had more hoes, I mean, Jose Johnson would be like, what, minus 15? He'd be the biggest favorite in UFC history, right?
Yeah, I think so. And Felipe Bunes has got a pretty baller hat. I mean, when you look at his hat on either Tapology or Sherdog, great hat. So I'm sure he does pretty well. But,
oh, wow. I did not notice that. That's going to change. That might change my pick. I mean, that hat's very nice. Let me see if I can.
It's a great hat, dude. I mean, like, you don't see hats like that everywhere. And hats like that are when you got that kind of hat swag in the UFC, it does mean something.
Do you have the stats on like cool hats and their win?
Well, it's something I'm building into that data set that I spent a couple of days putting together over the break. And yeah, we're going to have it. You know, I mean, if you're going to be missing stat diggers this year, you're going to have problems, not just in your MMA betting, in life in general. You're not going to laugh as much. You're not going to be nearly as entertained or as at peace as you would be if you were watching us. But some of these stats and analytics and visuals that I'm going to be bringing to the game, Brady, with these data sets that I have, they're going to be life-changing for UFC fans.
Absolutely. So, like, what means more to you? Multiple hoes or a very cool hat?
Man, you know, because some of these dudes that are wearing these hats, they couldn't get laid in the brothel.
Yeah.
You know, who's banging Mick Tebek oral by?
Oh, God!
Right? You know, I mean, you look at some of these dudes that are wearing these hats, you know, I mean, like, who's, you know, so I don't know, man. Like, you know, is the pious route of not getting any women and just sitting in the gym and sniffing crotch in a room that smells like hot balls 12 hours a day? Is that the path to UFC wins? Or is, you know, doing something like Jose Johnson, for instance, you know, who's out there and he's got some quality women around him, several of them at all times. Is that going to lead to wins? These are things that the data is going to tell us as the year goes on, Brady.
Yeah, he always has at least 2 hoes with him, but I think he averages like 3. I think they set the over under of Jose Johnson hoes at 2.5 for this week.
Yeah. If they want to really cop out, they could do it at 2, you know, so that like 75% of the potential bets push, you know, because he's probably going to have 2 there, you know, but it could be 3 and it could be 1 because maybe one of those hoes is mad at him or has got drama with one of the other hoes and they can't be at the same place at the same time. That under's cashing. So,
yeah, hats are so 2024. Funny hat is definitely insanely plus EV. Yeah, it feels like every time. Like even Brendan Allen's starting to put on a funny like a funny raccoon, right, or something like that. He's starting. He's starting to win a ton.
Dude's like 11-3 in the UFC. He's got a great record.
It's crazy. You know? It's insane. So Jose Johnson is, this guy shaves it. The thing is, Jose Johnson shaves a ton of ass. We just haven't got to see it yet. We haven't got to see it yet. But I saw him kill guys today, like outside the UFC. So yeah, we'll see. Should be a fun fight nonetheless. All right, let's move on to the next fight. Then it is. Here we go. Punahele, Soriano going against Uros Medic. We got Soriano, 32 years old, 5'11" with a 72-inch reach. Medic, 31 years old, 6'1" with a 71-inch reach. Medic, 1 year younger. He's going to have a 2-inch height advantage, and he's going to have a 1-inch reach disadvantage. Punahele Soriano is 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Decision loss to Nick Maximov. Knockout win against Dolce Longimbula. Knockout loss to Roman Kopylov. Submission loss to Dustin Stoltzfus. And then a decision win against Miguel Baeza. As far as Uros Medic, he is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Submission loss to Jalen Turner. Knockout win against Omar Morales. Knockout win against Matt Semmelsberger. Submission loss to my titty back Oral Boy. And then a knockout win against Tim Means. This fight's going to be fun, man. I'm looking forward to this one. Weezy, what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, it should be a really fun one. Puna moved from 185 down to 170 in his last fight against Miguel Baeza and looked like a completely different fighter. Dude went out there and piled up a ton of takedowns, a ton of top control time, landed a bunch of ground and pound, and really just destroyed Baeza for 3 straight rounds. Looked like a completely different fighter than we have seen him look in all of his previous fights. Soriano, prior to that Baeza fight, was somebody that I had capped as he either lands a big left hand early in the fight or he loses. Completely one-dimensional fighter. Waiting to land that one big hand and trusting it so much that he has no urgency to win minutes or do anything that's going to help him bank rounds and win decisions. So, but then he goes out there in the Baeza fight and he gets a ton of takedowns and a ton of control time. Let me just look and see what the numbers were real quick for that fight, because it was something that we have never seen from Puna before. 5 takedowns on 6 attempts and 10 minutes and 58 seconds of control time, and he outlands Miguel Baeza 144-7 insignificant strikes. Talk about an ass shaving. Soriano absolutely put it on Baeza. So I was kind of surprised to see Uros Medic as a -200 favorite, because usually when somebody comes off a performance like Puna just came off of, he's not going to be, priced as an underdog to somebody that we just saw in Medic absolutely get drowned on the mat by Oro Boy. So I thought it was interesting to see this line where it is, but I mean, I still think that Uros Medic is the much better striker here. The guy is 2 inches taller. He's longer than Puna. Puna's got a 72-inch reach, but that's all lats. Obviously Medic is the guy that's going to throw more kicks. He's the guy that's going to be maintaining range a lot better than Puna Soriano. So, and the Medic versus Oro Boy fight I thought was interesting because Oro Boy was not the original opponent. The original opponent was a guy we talked about earlier, Johnny Parsons. The guy who's got a mullet and too many concussions. So Medic is training for Johnny Parsons. Johnny Parsons has never shot a takedown in his entire MMA career. And then he gets a pure wrestler who winds up just drowning him. And Medic looks like he can't grapple at all. And, Medic's grappling game is not his strong point. But I also don't think that Soriano is all of a sudden this awesome wrestler that's going to be just drowning people with takedowns and control time, because when I went back and I watched that fight, I mean, it was maybe one of the worst performances of all time by Baeza. That was disgusting. He offered zero resistance. His career is over, because that's one of the worst fights that that was a couple of notches above William Knight's performance versus Marcin Prachnio. That's how shitty Baeza looked against Soriano. So I don't think that Soriano is all of a sudden, going to turn into Khabib Nurmagomedov and be getting multiple takedowns in 10 minutes of control time in every fight. And because of that, I think Medic is going to outwork Puna at range and probably find a knockout, because that's what Medic does. He knocks fools out. Dude's got crazy power, and he's got really good kickboxing. And I think he's just a way better striker than Punahele Soriano. Can Soriano get a bunch of takedowns in top time and win the fight? I think that would be his path to victory here. I don't think he's knocking out Medic. I don't think he's winning minutes or moments on the feet, because Uros is just way smoother. So I like Medic here. I like Medic by KO.
Yeah, Medic opened up -206, currently -200. Soriano opened up +176, currently +170. The over-under set at 1.5. The over 1.5, -156. The under 1.5 is +126. I don't mind violence in any Medic fight. This guy's not been the distance yet, right?
Medic has never been the distance in his entire 12-fight pro career. Yeah, man. This guy has got a ton of power, and he's been finished in his losses.
Yep. So I like violence. I don't know about the 1.5. Maybe actually, I don't hate the under 1.5, but like an alternate 2.5 could be even more interesting. I think it's a very violent fight, especially with the old gloves. Heck yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I mean, Soriano, you just do not want this guy to connect on. He really does have great power. But this is also one of the things that really led me to the Medic side, where I really like him, Brady. It's a southpaw versus southpaw matchup. So when I see southpaw versus southpaw, I start thinking to myself, all right, who's the better striker? Because usually you don't get a chance if you're a southpaw to be training against other southpaws a lot. You're used to training against orthodox fighters. So the more well-rounded striker in a southpaw versus southpaw match is going to be able to use their jab, because usually you don't get to use your jab a whole lot when you're a southpaw, because your opponent can just parry that jab with their lead hand. But like when I saw Soriano fight Roman Kopylov, who's another southpaw, I just didn't like how he looked in the southpaw versus southpaw matchup. He's not diverse enough of a striker. He's got a straight left and not much else. So that's another reason why I think Medic is going to really look a lot better at range here than Soriano, is because they're both southpaws.
And I would heavily agree with that as well. I think Soriano is going to have to go for takedowns here, and I think he's going to try to go for takedowns, but so we'll see.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, fun fight there. I like that fight quite a bit, and I also like this next fight. It is going to be Christian Rodriguez going against Austin Bashi. We got Christian Rodriguez, 27 years old, 5'7" with a 71-inch reach. Bashi, 23 years old, 5'6" with a 70-inch reach. Bashi's going to be 4 years younger. It's going to be Rodriguez with a 1-inch height advantage and a 1-inch reach advantage. Rodriguez is 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Submission win against the guy with the blue hair, Joshua Weems. A decision win against Raul Rosas Jr. Decision win against Cameron Simon. A decision win against Isaac Dalgarian. And then a submission loss to Julian Rosa. As far as Austin Bashi, 5-0 in his last 5 fights. A second-round submission win against Dorian Ramos on the Contender Series. I think it's hilarious at this point, Weezy, what they're doing with Christian Rodriguez. It's like they keep giving him these undefeated prospects with a ton of hype on him. We saw it in the Simon fight. We saw it in the Dalgarian fight. We saw it in the Raul Rosas Jr. fight. And now they're doing it here. They're giving him Austin Bashi, an undefeated prospect with a ton of hype on him. And Rodriguez, isn't he 3-0 against these undefeated? 3-0 against these undefeated guys. So let's see if Austin Bashi can be the first one to pass this Christian Rodriguez test as an undefeated fighter. Weezy, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, have you taped this Austin Bashi yet?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, what do you think?
I think he's very good. I think he's the future.
Yeah, dude, he reminds me of Merab in that he has no interest in striking at all. He's pressure forward, and he makes you defend constantly. He will chain 10 to 12 to 20 to 30 takedown attempts together until he finally gets you down. And even if he doesn't get you down, you're still just defending. So I love the conditioning. He can push that pace for a full 15 minutes, but it's the level of competition that's bothering me a little bit. Now, Bashi's not a can crusher. He's fought a lot of really good regional scene competition. But I just look at this matchup, and obviously Christian Rodriguez has 6 fights at the UFC level while Bashi's making his UFC debut. When you compare Christian Rodriguez's striking to Austin Bashi's, they're not even in the same stratosphere. Christian Rodriguez wins all the minutes and all the moments at distance striking range in this fight. And one of the fights that concerned me about Bashi was his 5-round fight against Joe Penafiel. 5 rounds, Bashi's shooting takedown after takedown after takedown after takedown, and Joe just keeps stuffing him over and over and over again. Bashi's not getting takedowns. Now, he's winning the rounds because he just makes Penafiel defend the entire 25 minutes. It's a 5-round fight, and the kid's cardio looks great in rounds 4 or 5 after shooting takedowns for the entire first 3 rounds. So I think this kid Bashi's a phenomenal prospect because he's going to make his opponents constantly defend, and he's got the kind of cardio necessary in order to push that kind of a pace. But Christian Rodriguez is somebody where if you chain 3 or 4 takedowns together and you're not getting them, and then you start getting sloppy on the 5th or the 6th, you're not just not going to get the takedown, you're going to wind up on your back. That's what happened to Dalgarian. That's what happened to Raul Rosas. They tried to take him down, they got sloppy, and they wound up on their back. And when you wind up underneath Christian Rodriguez, he's going to be working for front chokes when you try to get back up, and he's going to be landing ground and pound when he's on top of you. So I'm not sure yet that Austin Bashi possesses the necessary combination of wrestling and Brazilian jiu-jitsu to win minutes against grapplers the level of Christian Rodriguez. That's something we're going to have to find out from him. It's his UFC debut. He's 13-0. He's not crushing cans. This kid is a real blue chip prospect, and he's got the kind of style that is just an absolute fucking nightmare to match up against. A lot of people are going to lose cell reception when the matchmakers call them and offer them an Austin Bashi fight, because it's a very frustrating fight to take. Like I say, I want to say it again. He fights like Merab Dvalishvili. He does not let you breathe. He never fucks off. He's extremely annoying. So Christian's going to have to find some success in the distance striking exchanges here, and he's going to have to get on top a couple of times. But I think if he can do that, I think he can be he can turn back a fourth straight undefeated prospect on Saturday. I bet Christian Rodriguez, his money line went to plus 245 for a second. I caught it at plus 240. I've got a 1.5 unit bet on his money line here. I think he can win some of these grappling exchanges. And if he can, I think he's going to win this fight.
Yeah, I mean, cash that CLV trophy. Jeez. That line moved quite a bit. It was plus 245. Now it's plus 215. Bashi opened up. I guess he opened up as a plus 167 underdog. But yeah, he was around minus 2. He was minus 290 at one point. And now
I was just watching my screen. I was writing up the fight, and I was going to bet him. And then he went from plus 200 to plus 245 in one tick. So somebody on Bet Online dropped an absolute bomb on Bashi. And I just happened to catch it right when that happened. So he was at plus 240, plus 245 for maybe 10 minutes. And then it was right back to plus 220 and then 215, 210. So, but he could get back up there again because, like I said, this guy Bashi is a phenomenal prospect and he's already juiced. So the parlay boys are probably going to bring more action on him.
Yeah, potentially. But there is that narrative of Rodriguez being 3-0 against these undefeated guys. So we'll see.
Yeah, it's a great fight. This is a great fight.
The total is set at 2.5. The over 2.5 is minus 241. The under 2.5 is plus 191. You have a bet on the money line. Any thoughts on the total, though?
I think it probably goes to decision. But, you know, if this kid Bashi gets sloppy, you know, and he puts his neck in the wrong spot, C-Rod can absolutely snatch it up. Dude, I think that choke that he had on Pierce would have finished 2/3 of the division.
That guillotine?
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, you saw what he did to Weems as soon as Weems made a mistake. You know, he beat the shit out of Dulgarian in round number 3. You know, and Dulgarian's one of the best wrestlers to ever transition over to MMA. The guy's wrestling pedigree is one of the best. Raul Rosas Jr. has got better BJJ than Austin Bashi. Isaac Dulgarian's got better wrestling than Austin Bashi, but Austin Bashi has better cardio than both of those dudes. So this is going to be another test that we're going to see if Christian Rodriguez can pass here against a really good, young, hyped fighter.
Yeah, I can't wait for this fight. Austin is 23. I have to lean with the guy who beat the Chihuahua guy, which is Rodriguez. C-Rod by decision, hot take of the week. Featured like in Bashi there. Small World saying I got C-Rod in round 3. Yeah, I had C-Rod round 3 against Dulgarian. I wanted to jump off a bridge. Let's see. Christian Rodriguez to shave the ass of this rookie. We shall see. We shall see. Should be a fun fight. Let's keep moving on. We have Chris Curtis going against Roman Kopylov. We got Chris Curtis, 37 years old, 5'10" with a 75-inch reach. Kopylov, 33 years old, 6 foot with a 75-inch reach. Kopylov 4 years younger, 2-inch height advantage, and got the same reach there. Chris Curtis is 2-2 and 1 no contest in his last 5 fights. Knockout win against Joaquin Buckley. Decision loss against Kelvin Gastelum. No contest against Imavov. A decision win against Marc-Andre Barrios. And then a decision loss against Brendan Allen. As far as Kopylov, 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Knockout win against Soriano. Knockout win against Ribeiro. Knockout win against Fremd. A submission loss against Anthony Hernandez. And then a decision win against Cesar Almeida. For me, this is a very simple one to break down. None of these guys is going for a takedown. If anybody does, I guess it's Kopylov, but I doubt it. I think these two are going to strike for 15 minutes. And when they do, I just see Kopylov being the better striker. I think he has more power, more tools on the feet. And I kind of like Kopylov probably by decision just because Curtis is next level durable. So I like Kopylov Minus 250, though, it kind of feels a little wide because it's like these guys are going to strike for 15 minutes. But I do lean Kopylov in this one. Weezy, what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, this is a pretty easy fight to break down because, neither one of these guys really wrestles offensively. Chris Curtis will never shoot a takedown. Kopylov shot takedowns against Almeida, but he'll never shoot takedowns in any other fight. So this was a boxer in Curtis versus a kickboxer in Kopylov, and I take the kickboxer every time. They can manage range better. They have more weapons. They're less predictable. And Chris Curtis is just one of the most predictable fighters in the UFC. When you're one-dimensional and you only fight one way, when you just use your boxing and look to counter, it's pretty easy to figure out, what you're going to do when you come in there. So he's a fairly easy fighter to game plan for. Kopylov is about 4 years younger than Chris Curtis. He's a couple inches taller. He's a southpaw, and his kicks are ridiculous, dude. They're so good. He's got so much power. I love the combinations that Kopylov puts together. I just think he's a much better striker. I like him a lot here. And I kind of feel like the line is about where it should be. But Curtis is a guy that, you can't take this guy lightly because he's an uncompromising counter striker. And when you land good counter shots, those are the ones that knock you out because a lot of them you don't see coming. You're not preparing, you're not bracing. So you get clipped with a counter shot. Those are the ones that put your lights out and finish fights. And, we've seen Chris Curtis, 5 wins in the UFC. He's knocked out 3 of his opponents. He's the last guy to beat Joaquin Buckley. Buckley's on a little bit of a streak right now. I mean, Curtis knocked him out cold. So Curtis has beaten the better guys. He's fought the better guys. But we just know who he is at this point. This is a striker versus striker matchup, and I'm not ready to take the counter striker versus the kickboxer. I think Kopylov can knock out Chris Curtis. I think he can knock out literally anybody. 13 professional wins, 11 by knockout, not by accident. This guy's got ridiculous power. So the only guy that he didn't beat was Cesar Almeida, and it's because he wrestled him. And so he's not finishing with wrestling, but I think what's really, I think one of the cheekiest bets of the week, though, one thing that you got to know if you've taped Roman Kopylov is that this dude's conditioning is fucking awful. So I think Chris Curtis round 3 KO, because he's already plus 200 on the money line. That's something that I'm going to be sprinkling this week because Kopylov gets tired. And if he gets tired and Chris catches him with a good shot, I think he might be able to finish him. And I think that fight doesn't go to decision or an under 2.5, but I'd rather play the fight doesn't go because of Kopylov's shitty conditioning. I think that's a very interesting look this week. Everyone talks about Curtis's durability, but your durability is really only as good as the power that's coming your way. And if Kopylov catches you with a head kick, I don't care how durable you are, you're going down. So I think an under could be a cheeky look here. But I think that Curtis could potentially get a finish in the 3rd round because Kopylov's conditioning is just awful.
Yeah, especially when he gets wrestled, it's even worse. But
yeah,
it's still bad even if he doesn't get wrestled. So I get you there. Yeah, a lot of people agree with you in terms of the Kopylov knockout. I mean, maybe he does hit hard. It's just 42 fights for Curtis, only been knocked out once. So I would need good odds on Kopylov knockout. Kopylov 2-3. So we'll see what the odds are, but I think it could be in play. But I think decision's probably the most likely. Kopylov knocks out Curtis. Mark my words. That'd be a huge feather in his cap. That is for sure. Kopylov 2-3 KO. Would you like the 1-2 better? The
1-2. Yeah, I would like 1-2 better because I know it takes Kopylov a little bit to get his reads, but in round 3, he could get a knockout because it's not like Chris Curtis is going to make him grapple, So maybe if
early round
Curtis,
3.
And Curtis isn't going to march you down either. So maybe Kopylov's conditioning looks better in this fight than it has in a lot of others. But yeah, I mean, if I'm picking Kopylov, I think he gets it done in round 1 or 2 actually, because in round 3, I just think he's going to be tired.
I think it's going to be round 2 anyway. I was looking at Kopylov's wins. This guy has, I think, only 1 win in round 1 ever.
Yeah.
Only one knockout in round 1. The rest are round 2 and round 3.
Bit
And
of a
round 4.
slow starter, not a high volume striker, but boy, once he gets his reads and he starts putting his combinations together, man, he's got so much power.
Yep, he does. All right, so yeah, I like Kopylov there. I don't know if I like the minus 250, but might look at a prop. All right, let's keep moving on to the next fight. We got Cesar Almeida going against Abdulrazak Al-Hassan. We got Cesar Almeida, 36 years old, 6'1", with a 74-inch reach. Abdulrazak Al-Hassan, 39 years old, 5'10", with a 73-inch reach. Almeida 3 years younger, 2-inch height advantage, and a 1-inch reach advantage. Almeida is 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Made his debut against Dylan Budka, won that fight by second-round knockout, lost the decision to Roman Kopylov, and then won a decision against Ehor Petry. As far as Abdulrazak Al-Hassan, he is 2-1 no contest in his last 5 fights. Knockout win against Alessio Di Chirico, decision loss to Joaquin Buckley, knockout win against Claudio Ribeiro, submission loss to Joe Pyfer, and then a no contest against Cody Brundage his last time out. So this is a really weird fight for me because I feel like Abdulrazak Al-Hassan could potentially have some success here. I mean, we just saw Roman Kopylov take down Almeida. I mean, he made Roman Kopylov look like Khabib Nurmagomedov in that fight. And Abdulrazak Al-Hassan, he can get takedowns. We saw him get like multiple takedowns against Joaquin Buckley in the 3rd round. So I think he could potentially get some takedowns here against Almeida. The problem is I'm just not sure he can do that for 15 minutes. And the other problem is Abdulrazak Al-Hassan, this guy has only won out of the 1st round 1 time, and that fight ended with like a minute into the 2nd round. So he's really only winning in the first 5-6 minutes of a fight. And is that going to change here all of a sudden at 40 years old? I'm not so sure. And is he going to knock out Almeida in the 1st round? He has power. It's just he's at a really big striking disadvantage. I mean, Almeida's the much better striker. But if Al-Hassan can land, maybe that could be it. But I think I'm going to go with Almeida here. I just hate the price tag. Because I think there's paths for Al-Hassan, whether it's an early knockout, whether he catches him, or whether he can get takedowns against Almeida, who just seems to have no takedown defense whatsoever. Like Almeida, even against Bucka, like Bucka was taking this guy down, Kopylov was taking this guy down, the dude on the Contender Series was taking this guy down. Maybe we see D1 Al-Hassan make an appearance. I don't know, but I'm going to Almeida. Just I hate the minus 300. Weezy, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, it's one of those things where I think the market has kind of figured out that, like, you know, Almeida's very durable. The guy's got a real chin on him. And I think the best parallel for this fight was Al-Hassan when he fought Munir Lazzez, right? Munir Lazzez is another very durable guy who's a really good kickboxer. And what happened was Abdul tried to back him up to the fence and unload big shots in the 1st round. Lazzez defended well, moved his head, didn't absorb any big shots, and Abdulrazak got tired, and then he got picked apart for the 2nd and 3rd rounds of that fight. And I kind of see Cesar Almeida doing the same thing here. We got to keep one thing in mind, that Abdulrazak Al-Hassan has never won a decision as a professional, and he's a 39-year-old man. So you don't start changing you don't all of a sudden become a minute winner at 39. Abdulrazak is a finisher, and he's fighting a guy who's a much better striker than him, who's very durable. So, is Al-Hassan going to get a KO against Cesar Almeida? I don't think so. Is he going to get takedowns in 2 or 3 different rounds and top time this guy to a decision victory? Well, if he did, it would be the first time that ever happened. But then again, we just saw Roman Kopylov get one of his first decision victories ever by top timing, Cesar Almeida. So there are paths for Al-Hassan. He's one of these guys where if he does hit you clean, you're probably knocked out. And he could potentially out-grapple Cesar Almeida for 3 rounds. But I think that both of those are very unlikely possibilities because Almeida is A, durable and the much better striker here. And B, Al-Hassan's just not a minute winner. This guy's never been a minute winner, so I mean, I like Cesar here. I think he's going to get the job done. I think he probably knocks out Al-Hassan because I think if Al-Hassan does have success wrestling in the 1st, that Cesar's just going to knock him out in the 2nd because this guy's not built as a cardio machine that's going to go out there and outpoint his opponent over 3 rounds, getting multiple takedowns, landing a bunch of ground and pound, holding the guy down. That's not how Al-Hassan fights. So if he does it, good for him. But, we just got to keep in mind that this is a levels thing on the feet. And I think that Caesar's just going to win the minutes and the moments at distance striking range. And his pressure is also very difficult to deal with. So Abdul Razak Al-Hassan does not train with Dagestanis like Kopylov does, So I just don't think we're going to see him all of a sudden become, Jacob Malkoun out here and go out there and take this dude down and hold him down. So, yeah, I think Caesar knocks him out probably first or second round here. But Al-Hassan's got some paths, so it's going to be an interesting matchup.
Yeah, I don't even know what to do with the total because an under in an Al-Hassan fight is very, very intriguing. But Almeida has a chin on him, and really so does Al-Hassan. Is my problem. Both guys are super dangerous, but also extremely durable.
Yeah, we saw Al-Hassan finish by a jab in the Chaos Williams fight, but outside of that fight, this guy's taken everything that his opponents are dishing out, and he's only been knocked down once in 13 fights, and it was the Chaos Williams fight, and that's when he was cutting a lot more weight to make it down to 170, which makes you less durable. So, yeah, man, I kind of like the under here, but I kind of feel like I'd rather just bet Caesar rounds 1 or 2 than bet the under because I'll get a better price in the under 1.5. And I won't have to worry about, I don't have to worry about an Al-Hassan submission here, I don't think.
No. Yeah, I don't really like anything, to be honest. Because I even saw Kopylov land like some insane shots on Almeida. One did drop him, but he ate a bunch. So yeah, I think both these guys are super durable. All right. Let's move on to the next fight. It is Santiago Ponzinibbio going against Carlston Harris. We got Ponzinibbio, 38 years old, 6 foot with a 73-inch reach. Harris, 37 years old, 6 foot with a 76-inch reach. Harris 1 year younger, same height, and Harris is going to have a 3-inch reach advantage. Ponzinibbio 1-4 in his last 5 fights. Decision loss to Jeff Neal. Decision loss to Michel Pereira. Knockout win against Alex Morono. Knockout loss to Kevin Holland, and then a decision loss to Muslim Salikov. As far as Carlston Harris, he is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Knockout win against Ipa Kasaganai in the first round, a knockout loss to Shavkat Rakhmonov, a decision win against Jared Gooden, submission win against Jeremiah Wells, and then a knockout loss to Chaos Williams. This is the closest line fight on the entire card. Weezy, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, and I like that it's closely lined because I could see Ponzinibbio winning all the striking exchanges of this fight, potentially getting a knockout or winning a decision. And if Carlston Harris wants to wall install and grapple, I think he can win a ton of minutes in this fight. And he's a sneaky striker because, he's 6 feet with a 76-inch reach, so he's tall and he's long for the division, but he's just really unorthodox. He throws his punches from very strange angles. He's going to be a very difficult opponent to train for, and Carlston's got some sneaky power. This guy's really well-rounded. 8 wins by decision, 6 wins by submission, 5 wins by knockout. So he's got a number of different ways that he can hurt you. You can see this guy be a suffocating grappler in certain fights. You could see him knocking people out at range in certain fights. You could actually see him maybe losing some grappling exchanges, but then he locks up that anaconda choke, and it's one of the best anaconda chokes in the game. This guy's ridiculously long for the division, and he's able to finish fights with that technique. So Harris is a very dangerous opponent in his own right. And the one thing that we've never seen in a Santiago Ponzinibbio fight is somebody try to grapple him. Nobody ever tries. They just match this guy up against strikers. Look at the last 5 opponents. Salikov, never take down. Holland, pure striker. Morono, pure striker. Michel Pereira, pure striker. Jeff Neal, pure striker. If Harris wants to make this a gritty, nasty, dirty fight with a lot of cage stalling, with a lot of trip takedowns, with a lot of submission attempts, I think that's how he beats Ponzinibbio. But I think Ponzinibbio keeps it in the center of the cage, lands a ton of leg kicks. I think that's how he beats Harris. But kind of thinking under is sneaky here because Carlston Harris is chinny, dude. This guy's been knocked out in 3 of 6 losses. And when he gets knocked out, he gets finished. Chaos Williams finishes him. Al-Salawi finishes him in Brave. He gets knocked out by Shavkat Rakhmonov as well. You've seen him go out there and just get absolutely slept in the first round of fights. So Ponzinibbio does have some real power. 6 of his 11 wins coming by way of KO. And we know that Harris's submission game is ridiculously good. So if this does become a grappling match, if Ponzinibbio gives up his back trying to get back up, if he sticks his head, if he puts his head in a bad place trying to get back to the feet, we could see Harris lock up a choke and finish the fight. So I could see either guy getting finished. So I think that's the way I would play this fight, because I think both of these guys have a path to victory, but I don't think either one of them is a great minute winner at this point in their career.
Yeah, I don't mind that under either. And I could see Harris knocking out Ponzi as well. Harris has a ton of power. He's a tricky striker to deal with because there's like nobody you can compare his striking to. It's very, very weird striking, but it works. Like he caught Impa with something. He caught that bum Aguilera with something and then made Aguilera shoot in for a takedown. So he has some power in his own right. And I think Ponzi's durability is waning a little bit as well. We saw him get knocked out by Holland, the Leech, and then also Alex Morono dropped him at the end of the first round also. So yeah, I think there's a couple avenues for that under to hit. And it's plus money. So yeah, I don't hate that.
Yeah, agreed. My template likes it. And 5 of 6 Carlston Harris fights at the UFC level have finished under 2.5 rounds. So he's definitely a guy, whether he wins or whether he loses, there's a lot of violence in his fights.
Yep, a great point, Weezy. He's not fought any grapplers yet. If you even look, like, he hasn't fought a grappler in a very long time. We're talking like 10 years ago. So I like Harris by sub. I don't mind that as well. I just think that Pons is done, to be honest, and I was very high on Carlos before. It's a no-brainer to me. I'm kind of leaning the Carlston side as well. Harris looked really bad versus Williams. That fight didn't really play out much. There's like a minute and a half, 2 minutes at most in that fight.
That's a brutal matchup, though. Chaos Williams is a problem. The guy's got fight-ending power, and he's got really good anti-grappling, and his striking, he can win minutes too with his striking. So that was a bad matchup for him.
Harris can bonk Pons too, not sub-reliant only. I agree with that. Fight doesn't go the distance. I agree with that. Pons' chin is dusty. I agree with that. I think both guys, their chins are just gone at this point. Fight doesn't go. We don't have a line on it yet, but the under is plus 115, plus 110, plus 100 out there. Let's see. Hey, what's Clint's new channel called? I believe it's just Die Hard MMA, right?
Yeah, I think that whatever Clint's channel was before his own channel is where he's bringing his work over to for the time being.
Yeah. Have you watched those couple minutes recently? Yeah, I did watch him the other day. It looked pretty competitive to me. He actually was outlanding Chaos Williams, I believe. Yeah, he outlanded him 14-12. So I don't know. I thought he was looking fine. He just got caught, though. I mean, which it would happen. It happens against Chaos Williams. But yeah, I mean, he did look rough. I mean, he got knocked out, but not really much you can tell there. But yeah, we'll move on to the main event. We have Mackenzie Dern going against Amanda Ribas 2. We have Mackenzie Dern, 31 years old, 5'4" with a 63-inch reach. Amanda Ribas, 31 years old, 5'3" with a 66-inch reach. Same age there. Dern with a 1-inch height advantage and a 3-inch reach disadvantage. Mackenzie Dern is 2-3 in her last 5 fights. Decision loss against Yan Xiaonan. Decision win against Angela Hill. Knockout loss to Jessica Andrade. Decision loss against Amanda Lemos. And then a decision win against Lupe Godinez. As far as Amanda Ribas, she is 2-3 in her last 5 fights as well. Decision loss to Caitlin Chukagan. A decision win against Viviane Araújo. A knockout loss to Macy Barber. A decision win against Luana Pinheiro, and then a decision loss against Rose Namajunas her last time out. So this was a fight that we actually have seen before. This fight was back in, 2019, and it was after a Dern layoff/pregnancy. And, going back to that fight, there's not really much we can take away. Dern with their pregnancy, with the layoff, and then on top of that, Dern's just a completely different fighter at this point. Her striking's improved leaps and bounds. She's actually able to somewhat complete takedowns nowadays. With that said, though, I still think I lean Ribas in this matchup. I don't think it's going to look anywhere as near one-sided as it was 5 years ago, but I do think it's a solid matchup for her. I think she can stuff takedowns here. Takedown defense is elite, 85, 86%. I think Hibas is going to be the better striker. Cardio should be fine. As long as she doesn't get clipped or nothing like that, I think she probably wins this fight by decision. So I like Hibas. Not sure I love the minus 200. She looked minus 200 or greater in their first fight, but like I said, a lot has changed since then. Weezy, what are your thoughts on this main event?
Yeah, so you mentioned it. A lot has changed. You know, the Dern's striking has looked a lot better in recent fights, and Amanda Hibas will never really be dangerous with her striking, and she's one of the chinnier girls in the division as well. So, I think both of these girls have got some really good submission upside. You know, just in general in fights. Mackenzie Dern has been dropped 6 times in 14 UFC fights. Amanda Hibas has been dropped 2 times in 11 UFC fights. So these girls have been dropped a lot. But Mackenzie Dern's very durable. Obviously, you know, if you watch that Amanda Lemos fight, she got almost finished in the first round and then came back and, you know, arguably won the next 2 rounds of that fight. So Mackenzie's very durable. Her striking has improved by leaps and bounds, and she's, you know, her wrestling has gotten a little bit better. So I think that this fight is just going to be very, very close. I think they're extremely well matched. They're both really good grapplers. I don't think either one of them is going to have much success in the grappling range here. And I think that they're going to strike. And Amanda throws a little bit more volume. She's a lot more defensively responsible. So I think that gives her a little bit of the edge in the minute winning. But I like Mackenzie Dern's pressure. And I like that I think she's got a little bit more power than Amanda does. So, and if she can get a takedown, get to a fairly dominant position and win some minutes on the ground in 1 or 2 rounds, I think Dern wins this fight. So I just think that with Hibas, you know, you see her losing to Rose. She beats Luana Pinheiro. She loses to Barber. She beats Araujo. Split decision against Chukagian. Those are all really solid opponents. But, like, I think even though Dern is only 2-3 in her last 5, I think outside of that Andrade fight, you saw some really good performances. You know, you saw her win some minutes against Yan Xiaonan in the grappling exchanges. You saw her have a real great fight with Amanda Lemos on a pay-per-view card. The Lupe Godinez performance I thought was really good for Mackenzie. The Angela Hill performance was one of the best of her entire career. So I think Mackenzie is just right now on a little bit more of a hot streak, even though she's losing 2 of her last 3 fights than Hibas is. So I think that this is like a coin flip for me. You know, I think Mackenzie's made the improvements, the necessary improvements to look better this time around, to be more competitive in the striking exchanges. And, you know, potentially that she could find a little bit more success with the grappling this time around because her takedowns are a little bit better and because she's pressuring a lot more on the feet, which is very important.
Yeah, the Hibas opened up minus 170, and she's currently minus 200. Dern opened up plus 145, currently plus 170. The over-under, of course, is set at 4.5. The over 4.5 minus 200. The under 4.5 is plus 160. I'm a little bit more confident in Hibas, but at the same time, I don't know if I like the minus 200 there. And I'm with you. I think Dern has made just so many improvements. This will look nothing like the first fight, but still, stylistically, I kind of do like the matchup for Hibas a little bit. But yeah, minus 200, don't love it. Well, Hibas and her coaches realize she can win with just kicks alone. I don't know. What to see. I agree with all that. Weezy was the first fight at the Apex, I think, right?
If it was 2019, it probably wasn't because that's before COVID.
When I imagine that fight, I imagine it being in the Apex, but
let me see. Hibas versus Dern, UFC Fight Night.
It was in Tampa?
Tampa, Florida. It was Joanna versus Waterson. That was the card. It was Joanna Jędrzejczyk versus Michelle Waterson, now known as Michelle Waterson Gomez, and also known as retired.
Yeah,
so,
she's retired.
Yeah. So Hibas really won that first fight easily, outstriking her 74-20, outstriking her 72-19 at distance. My God. I mean, she just really put it on her. But that version of Mackenzie Dern, I don't think this is the same girl.
Absolutely not. Yeah, that was bad. But why is the rematch happening? Because it was a while ago, and things have changed. So people want to see this. People are looking forward to it. Got Hebos at -150. Cash that CLV should be an interesting main event. All right, we did it. 14 fights down. First show of 2025. Any final thoughts? And also let people know what you got going on for some content for the first card of the year.
Yeah, I'm glad to be back. Glad that we got the UFC back. I am in the midst of writing up all these fights, and on my Patreon and on my Dub Club, I'm going to be going live on Wednesday to do balls deep breakdowns and probability, where I'm going to go, into all the stats and stylistic components of the matchups. And then for probability, we kind of look at the prop betting markets and the over-under betting markets and take a look at all the analytics and statistics, how they compare to these bets, the prices of these bets, to find the best plus EV spots of the week. So that's all going to be on my Patreon and Dub Club later on this week. And I'll be going live on Friday afternoon after the weigh-ins for just a tip and the greasy 4-leg parlay for free on YouTube. I'm looking forward to getting back to stacking cash tickets like flapjacks in 2025, Brady. We got to find a way to each get at least 50 units to the plus side with our track bets this year.
And it all starts with 10 units on Fatima Klein to win 1 unit. Let's go.
Let's go. Fatima's going to make it look easy. I'm telling you, she's going to look -1,050. And we're going to be laughing our asses off at that -1,000 ticket cashing. So
it's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be awesome. But yeah, fun show, fun fights. I'm looking forward to this card quite a bit. Looking forward to fights in general. For me, I'll be getting out my full card breakdown and prediction video on Monday, and then have some more live content later in the week. Still not sure what I'm gonna be doing with Best Bet this year. Got to kind of figure that out. But yeah, guys, thank you all so much for hanging out. Thank you, Avery, as well. Shout out to Avery for that. One of the biggest, I think the biggest dono I've ever seen. I didn't even think they can let you do more than like 99. So shout out to him for that. Shout out to all you guys as well. Fun show. And I got to go do more tape study on Calamari or Kalahari. What's her name?
Caliari.
Caliari. I got to go do more tape study on Caliari. I think.
Oh shit, we got the Stat Diggers parlay.
Oh crap! You're right. We almost forgot. Avery would have been pissed.
I know, and he would have been right to be pissed.
Right.
All right. What are we doing here? I know what I think I know what I'm going to do.
Let's see. Let's go one by one. Hebos -200. No. Ponzi Harris. No. Almeida -275. No. Kopylov -250. That's a maybe for me.
Mm-hmm.
Bashi -255. No. Medic -200. Maybe. Jose Johnson -175. I don't love it. Tulio -500. No. Moises -200. Maybe. Jacobe Smith -355. Maybe. Kareckaite -270. No. Gadzhiyasulov -200. No. Klein -1,000. No. Aliev -425. No. So, what are you thinking?
I like Thiago Moises' money line. And if I were to do an over-under, I think, oh, God, that's ugly. I was going to say Solecki Aliev, but it's -310.
Good.
That's awful. And yeah, we could get a little bit cheeky and try an under in a Carlston Harris Ponzinibbio fight to get it pretty good. But yeah, I think I would go with the Thiago Moises money line as one of my favorite spots this week.
All right. Hopefully Ogden doesn't fuck us. He's done that every fight, really. But yeah, I like that too. Yeah, well, let's do that. Let's do the Ponzi Harris under as well.
Ponzi Harris under 2.5 rounds at +100, parlayed with the Thiago Moises money line at -200, gives us a 2-team parlay at +200.
There we go.
For this week. So we're going under 2.5 rounds, Harris versus Ponzinibbio, and the Thiago Moises money line at -200.
We have a new viewer here, the Poof Show. He can't be serious about Fatima Klein. You nailed it. You nailed that one. I was not I was not serious about that one. You caught me. You caught me there. So yeah, Moises money line, and then the under in the Harris fight. That will be the Avery Marino parlay of the week.
Let's get it, man. Let's start the year on a plus 200 hitting. I love that.
Let's go. And then it was 138 MMA won the best bet show. All right, that's about it, guys. Best of luck for the first card of UFC or 2025 UFC Vegas 101. We'll talk to you guys soon. See you later.